today. I really enjoy speaking. I'm hoping all of you can see my slides. Thanks to my two helpers, Sarah and Sarah, who are going to be fielding your questions via chat today. So if you have anything, you can send them to them and they'll respond to me if anything is going on. Um, First of all, I want to talk about a couple things. This COVID-19 and the social distancing that's going on. Um, it's really changed life as we know it. So I appreciate all of you stepping up and helping the people that you serve navigate these unknown waters and listening to this seminar because it will really help the veterans, I think. My goal is to give you a lot of information to take away from this seminar so that you connect the veterans to the care that they need. I'm also going to be sending a packet of information with telephone numbers, contacts, websites on that's going to be emailed to you at the conclusion of this presentation so that you have some hardcore takeaway things that will be very helpful for you. I do want to recognize today is May 1st, so that's Mental Health Month. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So thanks to all of you who work in the mental health field and help all of our clients and residents and patients that we serve. Mental Health Awareness Month started in 1949 as a way to raise awareness about the importance of mental health and stopping the stigma that goes with it. So that's very important. And June is also PTSD Awareness Month coming up after May. So I thought that was very important to mention as well. Okay, so before we get to the nuts and bolts, I want to start with a story. Those of you who may have heard me speak before for the Westmoreland County marketing meetings may have heard this story before, but I think it's very interesting and I want to just review this short story with you. It's called The Brick. A young and successful executive was traveling down a neighborhood street, going a bit too fast in a new Jaguar. While watching for kids darting out from between parked cars, there was a movement on the sidewalk that made the executive slow down. As the car passed, no children appeared, but instead a brick smashed into the Jaguar's side door. The executive slammed on his brakes and drove the Jaguar back to the spot where the brick had been thrown. The angry driver jumped out of the car, grabbed the nearest kid, and pushed the child against the parked car, shouting, "What was that all about, and who are you? Just what the heck are you doing? That's a new car, and that brick you threw is going to cost me a lot of money. Why would you do something like that?" The youth was very apologetic. "Please, please, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. I threw the brick because no one else would stop." With tears in his eyes, the youth pointed to a spot just around the parked car. "It's my brother," he said. "He rolled off the curb and fell out of the wheelchair, and I can't pick him up." Now sobbing, the child asked the stunned executive, "Would you please help me get him back into his wheelchair? He's hurt and he's too heavy for me to lift." The driver was moved beyond words and hurriedly lifted the handicapped boy back into his wheelchair. He took out a fancy handkerchief with a monogram and dabbed the scrapes and cuts of the boy. A quick look over the minor injuries relieved the executive that he was okay. "Thank you," the grateful child told the stranger. Too shook up for words, the young executive simply watched the child push his wheelchair-bound brother down the sidewalk toward their home. It was a long, slow walk back to the Jaguar. The damage was very noticeable to his car, but the driver never bothered to repair that dented side door. The dent was there to remind the executive of this message: don't go through life so fast that someone has to throw a brick at you to get your attention. The universe whispers messages to our souls and speaks to our hearts, sometimes when we don't have time. A brick is thrown to ensure that we are listening. So we all have the choice to listen to the whisper or wait for the brick. So I thought that was very appropriate with everything slowing down with COVID. So I hope you enjoyed that story. And I'm glad all of you guys have decided to listen to the whisper and learn some new things today about helping your clients. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I have my CCM, which is my certification in case management. I've worked here at the VA clinic in Westmoreland County for 3 years. It's called the CBOC, Community-Based Outpatient Clinic. Prior to that, I worked for Excella Health for 20 years, 10 years in the hospice arena, being a social worker and a bereavement counselor there. I also worked for a company called Valley Psychology, if you guys are familiar with that, doing psychotherapy on the weekends and the evenings. I call that my for fun job. So this presentation is really going to focus on tips to help veterans. It's not going to have much clinical information, but I do clinical work. So if anybody has any clinical information, feel free to ask some questions. I do not work for the VA healthcare system. I do work for Valor Healthcare, and that's contracted through the VA Pittsburgh Health System. So I wanted to let you know that. And so it's really two entities that I report to. Valor Healthcare is my employer, and they contract through the VA Pittsburgh Health System. This is going to be a very laid back presentation. Feel free to interrupt me or ask any questions. Sarah and Sarah, again, are going to be helping me manage those, and we'll be glad to interrupt the presentation. And if you guys have something to add to what I'm saying, please feel free to do that as well. I also want to make you aware that I've asked the girls to do 2 polls for me, so I kind of know what my audience is and who I'm speaking with at this time. Okay, next slide. We're going to have this presentation down into 3 parts. So the parts are eligibility first and how to get your veterans hooked up with services. So we're going to talk about some barriers. We're going to talk about healthcare enrollment. I don't know if any of you know about community care, but that started in June of 2019 as part of the Mission Act. It's a new law. And we're going to go over some VA tools that you guys can have to help hook up veterans with services. So that's the first part. Okay, second part. I don't know why second part is not going. Okay, second part is going to be our CTAD, our substance use disorders part, and how to link up veterans with services for that. And the 2 main parts of that presentation are going to be the CTAD, which is the Center for Treatment of Addiction Disorders, and our community care program and how to get veterans hooked up with that. The third part of the presentation is going to be our CRSC and MST, and this is all relating into trauma. What services are really out there for the veterans that are suffering from trauma, and how can you hook them up with services? So we're going to be talking about the Combat Stress Related Clinic, and that's CSRC, Combat Stress Related Clinic, and MST, which is Military Sexual Trauma. So those are going to be the parts of that. All right, so now let's go on to part 1. We're going to talk about some barriers for eligibility and trying to connect veterans to services. These things can be applied to a lot of people, not just veterans, but the veteran population is a very unique population, and there are certain things about them that may hold true or may just be a little bit more stronger feelings than the other population that they may have. Let's talk about stigma a little bit. In regards to SUDS treatment or trauma, a lot of people don't want to seek treatment because they say, I'm not crazy, I can handle this myself. And sometimes I'm going to throw this out there that they don't even admit to themselves that they're having this problem. So it's really hard for them to seek help if they aren't admitting it. They also feel like it's going to affect their job. There's going to have some kind of retaliation on their job or on their relationship if they do admit it and seek treatment. I'm not going to spend too much time going over the rest of these because they're self-explanatory, your work and school schedules. I do want to mention something about the fear of documented treatment. People will find out, I'll lose my job, I'm going to be labeled. I do want to let you know that if anybody seeks treatment at the Pittsburgh VA healthcare system, there are notes that we keep, but there's high confidentiality within the VA system. Like, I'm not even allowed to email anyone or any veterans. They have no way of knowing that. We have no internet or Wi-Fi at our clinic because they're worried about someone hacking into the computer. So I can honestly say the VA is very good with HIPAA. But if someone's worried about fear of documentation in regards to their treatment, they can seek treatment at a vet center, a local vet center. And the only people who have access to that documentation are the people who work within the vet centers. It's not shared with the rest of the healthcare system. So we'll talk more about that later, but I wanted to throw that out there. Financial issues, it's going to cost me. Well, guess what? Some of the services through the VA are free. We're going to go through that. They have an active lifestyle. They've had a past bad experience with the VA. Most of the bad experiences are related to service connection disabilities or trying to get money from the VA. It's not about the actual healthcare system or treatment. So we need to be aware of that, to treat them with kid gloves if they have had a bad experience, because I have heard horror stories myself from the veterans. They're not ready about talking to it. I've heard every day probably, bad things will happen to me if I talk about it. I have all these doors that are shut in my head, and if I open them and let them out, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to handle it. So that's a very important thing. Um, Another thing that I hear most on a daily basis is others need it more than me. Um, I just want to explain to you is in relationship to the healthcare system, that's not how it works. If you come and take advantage of services, then you get enrolled in our system and we get more money for other people. It's not like we get a pot of money and we have to use that for everybody we get. No, the more money that people come in, the more money we have to help treat our people. So you're helping other veterans by signing up and coming getting treatment. I have other insurance. I don't need it. Guess what? The VA healthcare system works in conjunction with other insurance. So we encourage you to keep your other insurance and your outside providers and just work with us at the VA system at the things that we can help you with. And denial is another thing. They don't need it. They can stop on their own. It'll be worse if I seek treatment. And I know you guys are probably aware of a lot of those things. So let's go to the next one. Part one still, eligibility, is the barriers for some of the providers. Some of the providers have a hard time understanding the military culture. Honestly, it's a hard time just to navigate the VA system. I've been here for 3 years and there's 3 things I learn about every day that I didn't know about. I've learned a tremendous amount of information in the 3 years that I've been here. I thought I knew a lot before I came here because when I worked with Excella Home Care and Hospice, I was in charge of their We Honor Veterans program. If any of you guys are out there with hospices, you know what that is. It's a special program that home cares can enroll in to recognize veterans and get benefits as part of the NCHPO. And I was the leadership of that. So I had a lot of involvement with all the veterans in our program, and I thought I knew a lot. Well, when I came here, I found out I didn't know very much. There's a lot of things that we don't know. And I don't know if there's any of you guys out there that remembered the old green teams or the red teams or the orange teams, but when I worked at Southside Hospital, I'm dating myself now because Southside Hospital is closed, but when I used to refer veterans to service at Southside Hospital, you used to go by team, whatever treatment team you were on. Um, People aren't aware of benefits, not only providers, but the veterans. I'm going to share a story for you that I was at a town hall at Jeanette, and one of the veterans stood up and he said, I'm very angry. I want to know why I have to drive to Fayette County when I live in Jeanette to get services for my clinic. He had no idea that we had a clinic here in Greensburg. He'd been going there for like 3 or 4 years. He didn't know our clinic was here behind Westmoreland Mall. So there's really not awareness of the benefits for the veterans sometimes. Also, people think this is a healthcare clinic just for x-rays and for labs or for doctor's appointments. They don't realize the C-Box also have mental health counseling. They employ psychologists and LCSWs to help with mental health issues. And we have all kinds of groups as well here as at all of the C-Box. We're going to talk more about that when we get to them. A change of providers, there's a lot of turnover rate, and it is a lot more with the VA probably with other places, but that's due to contracts or policy changes. And providers think it's a multidisciplinary approach at the VA, but I'm here to tell you that we really truly work as an interdisciplinary team here. We worked as packed teams. That's what the VA has called them, patient-aligned care teams. So each person here at our clinic has a provider, a registered nurse, an LPN, an AA, and a social worker assigned to their team. that's good because we get to know the veterans, they get to know us and our working capabilities, and we don't have a problem with changing PAC teams if a veteran thinks they're going to connect to a better person rather than us. That's just, we don't take it personal. That's something that we can do. Okay, part one, healthcare enrollment. I want to talk about healthcare enrollment. I'm going to be sending you guys in your packet a form that's called a 1010EZ, and it looks like this. It's going to be in the email packet. This is an application for enrollment. You can get it offline, but I'm going to send one to you. Also, the VA Pittsburgh healthcare system, so the Pittsburgh system, asks for a lot of other information. That's going to be sent into your packet. But that 1010EZ can be used for Butler. It can be used for Altoona. So you guys will all have at your fingertips an enrollment packet for healthcare. Now, healthcare is not the only way that veterans can get services. There's other avenues. They can be service-connected disabled. Anyone from military sexual trauma qualifies for mental health treatment. Vet centers, if someone's a veteran and may not qualify for the healthcare, they can get services through the vet center. So I want to let you know that applying for healthcare is not the only way to get services. As far as eligibility goes, there's a whole eligibility part. A basic eligibility is a person who served in the active military, naval, or air service and who was discharged or released under conditions other than dishonorable. They may qualify for VA healthcare benefits, and that includes Reserve and National Guard members. There is a minimum duty requirement, and that's only for those who entered duty after October 16th of 1981. And that is, they must have served 24 continuous months or the full period for which they were called to active duty. I don't expect you guys to remember those things. I always tell everybody, if someone is a veteran, apply for benefits. They can be denied and you figure out why. Because there's the little caveats that I don't even know about that helps people apply for benefits. For example, if you were at Camp Lejeune during a certain time, you automatically qualify for benefits. It doesn't know. They don't know. If you have MST, you are qualified, which is military sexual trauma, you can qualify for services based on that. Also, if you don't qualify for health care, you may qualify for vet centers, and our eligibility office can refer those services to you. So I always encourage everybody to please apply if they have any questions about that. You can apply by phone, by the website vets.gov, vets.gov. Mail the application in that I got you. Also, something that a lot of people don't know is you can walk into any CBOC, and I'm going to give you the list of those too, and apply for benefits right on site. So you can come to our clinic in Westmoreland County and say, I want to apply for benefits, and our girls will help give you an application and help you apply. So you can do it in person, and you also can apply for e-benefits. And when you access e-benefits, you can apply at www.ebenefits.va.gov. And it's a joint venture with the VA and the Department of Defense, and it's a portal that provides resources and capabilities to service members, veterans, and their families. So that's another way. People don't know about e-benefits, so I want to make sure you know about that.
Carla,
yes.
You have a question.
Okay.
Do you think you can please add the benefits for Lehigh County also? They're in Eastern PA.
Okay, the VA healthcare system is a federal program. So do you want me to look up the clinics in Lehigh County? Is that what they're asking?
Yeah, yes. She's
yes.
asking if you can add the application for benefits.
Oh, the application for benefits that I'm giving you is for the federal program. So that benefits that I'm going to be sending, that application, the 1010EZ, is good from California to Rhode Island. It's a federal application. So it will be included in the packet. So that's not just for Westmoreland County. That application is for a federal VA healthcare enrollment. So the 1010EZ, which you also can look up online, is good for Lehigh County. So it will work for that. So certainly. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so I also want to quickly mention, although I'm not going to explain these to you, whenever you enroll in the VA healthcare system, you get assigned groups, priority groups. There's 8 priority groups, and those priority groups determine how much copay you have and what services you're eligible. There's also sub-priorities, levels A through F. We're not going to get in the details about that, but let me tell you what that means. We have veterans who are eligible for totally free care, for eyeglasses, hearing aids, lab services, x-ray, equipment, DME, everything at 100% with no copays. And we also have some veterans who may only qualify for hearing aids. But let me tell you, those hearing aids are top of the line hearing aids. And when my dad was working, he's a veteran, a Vietnam War veteran, he applied for benefits, and the only thing he qualified for was the hearing aids. He got top of the line $1,000 hearing aids at this time that made a tremendous improvement in his quality of life. Once he retired from the steel mill and his income went down, he's now eligible for full health care benefits, in addition to his Blue Cross benefits that he has. So he has both benefits. So there's different priority groups and there's different kind of services. So that's another reason why you should encourage all your veterans to complete that application. Now, the next square that I have is SC versus healthcare. So you might say, what's that? SC is a big abbreviation that we use here at the clinics called service connection. Service connection versus healthcare benefits. Those are two different things. If you look down at the next red square, benefits versus healthcare, that's this square right here. Service connection, that means if you have a service connection disability, based on the war, you get a percentage. You may have heard your veterans talking about, I'm 100% or I'm 10%. Based on your service connection, you're also eligible for benefits. So there's benefits versus health care. So let me give you some examples because that's probably confusing. The veteran service officers, and we'll talk about that again, are in charge of connecting the veterans with their benefits. Our C-Box and the healthcare system is in charge of helping the veterans connect to the healthcare benefits they have. So they're two different things. Let me give you an example of some benefits that a veteran service officer may help with. Disability compensation, filing a claim for compensation. We don't do that at the healthcare system. The veteran service officers do that. So if you're filing a claim for service-connected disability based on your PTSD from the military service, you'd do that with the veteran service officer. Aid in attendance is another benefit that you get through a veteran service officer. And surviving spouse benefits and all the pensions are all done through a veteran service officer. Now, healthcare benefits are a HISA grant, if you guys have heard of those. It's Home Improvement Structural Assistance Grant, which gives you money to do modifications to your house if you're handicapped. Home assessments, we do on-site home assessments. We have an occupational therapist who works for us in the Pittsburgh health system named Dan Grant, and Dan Green, sorry, and he's wonderful. He does home assessments all over the county for us and makes recommendations on what the veterans need to live safely, and we follow through with them. So that's part of healthcare. Life alert buttons, that's part of healthcare. And any durable medical equipment and supplies you need are done through the healthcare, not through the benefits. Veterans can have both. Veterans can have service connection disability and get healthcare benefits both. And veterans can have one or the other based on what their eligibility. So again, if I can't stress enough to you guys, apply, apply, apply. Okay. Next thing is we're going to talk about the Mission Act. I am going to include a brochure, and this is what it looks like in the packet that I'm going to mail out to you, because this is like one of the newest things of the VA, the Mission Act. The Mission Act is a law that makes several improvements to the VA healthcare system that begins on June 6, 2019. So this has been in effect for almost a year now, and a lot of people don't know about it. So as you see on your slide, there's 4 basic criteria for the Mission Act. And the Mission Act has to do with community care and seeking services outside the VA for whatever reason. We're going to go over that. So the 4 basic criteria of the Mission Act are the specific care you need a VA facility may not provide. You reside in a state that does not have a full-service VA medical facility. There are some states that don't have it. The Pittsburgh healthcare system, in Pittsburgh, we do. And you may have grandfather eligibility because you live 40 miles away from the nearest VA that you can connect to. And the last of the 4th basic criteria is the specific care you need is not available within the designated access standards. So you need a referral to a pulmonologist or a specialist, and you're not within the window. You can seek care from a community, from your local hospital to get that services. So those kind of always been in place, but let me tell you about the 2 new ones. You and your referring clinician, that means your provider, decide it's in your best medical interest to receive the specific care you need in the community. And the VA has a designated VA medical service line, specific care that you need, but it's not providing the service that's helping you for whatever reason. So if you're seeking treatment, that brings us to the SUDS and the trauma. If you're seeking treatment for your substance abuse disorder or your PTSD, and you feel like the VA is not doing a good job at managing that for whatever reason, you can have a conversation with your healthcare provider within the VA, and they can place a consult for you to seek care in the community. It's someone that you're more familiar with or that you want to have treatment with. Our clinic and all the other clinics use what's called a DST tool, a decision support tool, and that's built right in our computers. And the doctors do it here to let you know if that service is available or if the person that you want to seek service with is on the VA's provider line. I just want to mention for those of you guys who are here in Westmoreland County, Excella Health is currently not on the preferred provider list for the VA for whatever reason. So we're working to get that figured out, but if someone wants to get treatment within Excella Health, it's not always a part of the preferred provider. So Excella Health has their own comprehensive counseling center and a partial day program, and that may not be included in the benefit. So people need to be aware of that. The other parts of the Mission Act that are included that may be important for you guys all to know is that the VA now may be billing your veterans' insurances for their SUDS treatment or for their PTSD treatment, which they have not done before. And there is a very detailed complaint and appeals process that got put in place with this Mission Act. And the goals of this are to all improve services for veterans. And again, this brochure will be attached in your packet that I'm getting you guys. Okay, this is one of the most important slides of the presentation. These are other tools and other options to get connected into care. So there's something that's called Coaching into Care. And that is, again, a federal program across the United States. Coaching into Care is a national telephone service of the VA which educates, supports, and empowers family members and friends who want to seek care for veterans or others. The goal of this Coaching into Care is to help veterans and their family members find the appropriate services at their local VAs or facilities. They also can provide coaching into care for families or friends of veterans, and this is all free of charge. So the Coaching to Care number will be contained in one of the phone number sheets that I'm sending you, but if anybody wants to write it down right now, the Coaching into Care number is 888-823-7458. Okay, let me say that again. The Coaching into Care number is 888-823-7458. 7458. And you'll talk with a member of the team who's specializing in helping callers determine the best way to help the veteran they care about and how to navigate the VA system. So that's what this speech is all about. And it's in operation from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that you have that. Okay. So that's coaching into care. The next thing we're going to talk is the eligibility department. All healthcare systems, whether it be Wilkes-Barre or Pittsburgh or Erie or Butler or Altoona, they have an eligibility department that you can call the eligibility department and get information on healthcare benefits and what the veteran is eligible for. Those priority codes that I told you about, that can be discussed with the eligibility department, so they can do that. So again, that's for healthcare though. The next square is VSO. So you're like, what's
Do you have a
VSO mean?
question
Okay,
about the, can you repeat hours of operation, please? I'm guessing
sure.
that's for the coaching into care.
Yep, got it. Sure, not a problem. The coaching into care number, I'll just repeat it again, 888-823-7458. And that is the hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, thanks, Sarah. All right, let's move on to VSO. VSO, what does that mean? VSO is Veteran Service Officer. We work really closely with our Veteran Service Officers, and I don't know if any of you guys were tuned in early, but the Veteran Service Officer for our county is Matt Zamoski, and he is very helpful to us. We do a lot of work back together with him, and he has such a good knowledge base of all the intricacies of helping people connect to services. So you guys can find a veteran service officer in your area. So let me throw this out there. Every county has a veteran service officer. Now I do have a listing somewhere of the veteran service officer representatives in our area. And I don't have Lehigh counties, but I bet if you Googled Lehigh County, you would come up with it. Let me throw a couple out there. Allegheny is 412-621-4357.
Hey, Carla,
Yeah,
just a question. I'm sure these services are available in Philadelphia and Coatesville, correct?
yes, they are. Yep, the veteran service officers, each county has a representative for Veterans Affairs. So if you check with the county that you reside in, they will be able to refer you to a Veterans Affairs office. Most of them are listed in the courthouses. Ours is housed in our Westmoreland County Courthouse. But let me throw something out there about these veteran service officers. One comes to our clinic. So every Monday, we have a veteran service officer available to the people who come here in our clinic. So your C-Box may have veteran service officers. Your local American Legions, VFWs, also have veteran service officers. I'm not sure about all of the hospital systems, but I do know the Pittsburgh VA hospital system has several veteran service officers right down the hall from Heroes Hall to meet with veterans. And these are all people who are paid to help process claims and help connect veterans to the services that they need. Another big source of veteran service officers, or where you can connect with them, are at the Federal Building in downtown Pittsburgh. That's the main office for the Veterans Affairs and all the claims officers. Now, I just want to throw something out there too, that veteran service officers are paid by the federal government to help connect veterans to the services they need. There's sometimes agencies out there who will take advantage of veterans and try to make money or charge them for processing claims. And that's something that I know Matt and I both feel strongly about, that that's not all right. And that's not okay to take advantage of the veterans. These guys who've been trained and spend a lot of time learning the rules, and they go to updates like twice a year, do this for free. So it's important to find the veteran service officers in your area that can help connect the veterans with services for free. Okay, the C box. C box, so that's the next square over here. I don't know if I have a pointer, but right here, the C box are community-based outpatient clinics. Those are things that the VA put in place, or clinics that the VA put in place to help veterans access care easier. So they don't have to drive to Pittsburgh or maybe drive to the Coatesville Hospital. There's clinics there that they can do. So I'm going to be sending you a list of the C box within the Pittsburgh VA healthcare system. And there's 5. We have one in Beaver County, one in Belmont County, which is in Ohio, one in Fayette County, Washington County, and Westmoreland County. So these are all healthcare clinics that have doctors, labs, x-rays. Some of them have eye doctors, some of them have audiologists, some of them have acupuncture or physical therapists, but you have to check with each individual CBOC of what they have. But it's a way that the VA has put in place closer to people's communities to get their care. All of the CBOCs do have mental health counselors, licensed clinical social workers, psychologists. Some even have marriage and family therapists to help address the SUDS issues and the PTSD issues. Another thing that the CBOCs have is a robust group schedule. A depression recovery group. We actually are lucky. We have Abby Lieberman from the White Oak Vet Center who comes to us and does a wonderful group for our Vietnam veterans here. It's a PTSD group. So she does a PTSD group here, a coping skills group. Dr. Zeka Shelna, who is also a wonderful psychologist who worked for us, did a drug and alcohol recovery group here at our CBOC. So that's another important resource. Check out to your community clinics and see what kind of groups they're offering for free to veterans who are enrolled in healthcare, attend the CBOC, and may be interested in these groups. Okay, vet centers, that's the middle square here. So vet centers, we work really closely with our vet centers. Again, we have a strong relationship with the White Oak Vet Center, and they come here and help run groups for us. There's 4 vet centers that we work with in this area, and I'm going to be sending you the contact information for them. Vet centers are a little bit unique because they don't have to have, have fear of documentation if they attend services at a vet center, okay? So who's eligible for vet centers? Let me just throw this out there. Veterans and active duty National Guard and reserve service members who served on active military duty in a combat theater or area of hostility, anybody who experienced military sexual trauma, any veteran who provided direct emergent medical care or mortuary services during wartime, served as a crew member of an unmanned aerial vehicle in direct support of operations, and Vietnam-era veterans who accessed vet center care prior to 2004. So again, I'm going to send you information in your little packet on the vet centers, but vet centers don't have the medical programs there, but vet centers have the programs to help with the PTSD and the SUDS treatment. They have individual and group readjustment counseling, marital and family counseling, bereavement counseling, outreach and education, including post-deployment health reassessment, substance abuse assessment and referral, employment assessment and referral, the veterans benefits explanation, as I kind of told you about the VSO, sexual trauma and harassment, and screening for medical issues. They can screen you and then refer you. So if someone doesn't qualify for our healthcare up here in this green box, they may qualify for SUDS and trauma treatment with the vet center. Or if someone doesn't qualify with the vet center for their treatment, they may be able to go to the healthcare part for their service. So that's why it's important to apply for services. Okay, this is another important number that's going to again be included on the sheet, this sheet that I'm sending you. It is the national hotline across the United States for any issues going on with veterans. So I'll give that to you. It's 1-800-827-3746. 1000. So the national hotline for veterans across the United States is 1-800-827-1000. I'm not really sure of their hours of operation, but when I worked in the acute care hospital setting, I used to refer veterans to this number a lot. And I know there's after hours that like to 6 or 7 p.m. that it goes to Eastern time again. So one more time, the national hotline is 1-800-827-1000. Okay, I'm running out of time here, and I talk fast already. So let's talk about the crisis line. I'm going to be sending you some information about the crisis line. This is a brochure that's attached to it. And the crisis line is really supporting our veterans. It launched in 2007, and it's answered more than 814,000 calls and made more than 28,000 life-saving rescues. And additionally than that, there's more than 94,000 people have been assisted through their online chat services for our crisis line. Each VA medical center has suicide prevention coordinators who help sort out and go through these crisis line numbers. And ours is very helpful in Pittsburgh, but each system has their own. But this again is a nationwide crisis line. So across United States, you can use this number 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's staffed by trained professionals, and the call centers are located in New York, Georgia, and Kansas. So it's very important that you guys have this crisis line number. So here we go. The Veterans Crisis Line number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the Veterans Crisis Line number is 1-800-273-8255. I just got a call yesterday about the crisis line from one of our suicide coordinators, and let me give you a little bit of background on how helpful they are. One of our veterans called the crisis line number because he was having an issue, and a retired New York City policeman was on the crisis line and was able to get these people the services that they need. So that's the kind of quality that we're talking about with the crisis line. And you've heard a lot of the buzzwords about the suicide issues and that's also something. This is confidential help for veterans and their families. I'll make sure you guys get a copy of this Veterans Crisis Line number. Okay, VJO. You guys are saying, look at all these abbreviations. What's VJO? Well, VJO stands for Veterans Justice Outreach. Again, this is a federal program, but not every county has it. Westmoreland County recently got it. So I know that Allegheny has it. I'm pretty sure Butler has it. But in regards to the VA Pittsburgh health system, you call your local Veterans Justice Outreach Coordinator at your local hospital, and they'll tell you if there is a VJO program. So the VJO program is designed to give justice involved veterans, that's a good way to put it, justice involved veterans, the opportunity to use VA resources and services to confront their legal issues and the root of troubles in lieu of incarceration. So they provide outreach, they provide counseling, they give them a peer counselor or a peer mentor, they assign them who's another veteran. They act as a liaison to the local justice system, and they collaborate with judges in specialty courts to connect the veterans with VA treatment services. So in the Pittsburgh system, the telephone number for that is 412-822-1410. I apologize. I wasn't aware that my population was going to be so diverse with areas outside of my system, but the best information on this Veterans Justice Outreach is to call your local VA hospital, and they'll let you know. if there is a Veterans Justice Outreach. Again, Westmoreland County's just started last year, and Allegheny County's has had one for a while. And it's been very helpful to some of my veterans. For instance, let me give you some instances. One of my veterans had several DUIs that he was dealing with, and the Veteran Justice Outreach Coordinator helped him tremendously with that. So, okay, behavioral health walk-in clinic. That's the last square. We do have a behavioral health walk-in clinic at the Pittsburgh VA system. I'm not sure if other VA health system has those, because I can't speak to them, but we do have one at Pittsburgh. And it was formerly referred to as the walk-in clinic. It's now called the behavioral health clinic. And it is located in our University Campus Drive Building 29, Waiting Room 1. And there's two parts of this walk-in clinic. If you're in crisis, it is not to take the place of scheduled appointments or people who've procrastinated, but it's for crisis situations. You can come for an unscheduled individual evaluation with a psychologist and a brief risk assessment. So that's the behavioral health clinic. And you also can have same-day access to medication. So this clinic offers unscheduled appointments for new patients only when referred by a psychologist or with extenuating circumstances. So let me tell you an example of when we use the behavioral health walk-in clinic. I had a veteran present to the clinic in crisis, and I had to meet with her for a crisis meeting. She had had an anti-anxiety medicine in the past that really helped her, and she needed access to that. Well, our provider felt uncomfortable with providing that prescription for her for the medicine. And of course, it's not within the scope of practice with an LCSW to prescribe medicine. So we called down to the behavioral health clinic, and there was a psychologist available there because there wasn't one here, who did a brief IE, then referred them over to the pharmacy who had a nurse practitioner who could help hook up our person with her anti-anxiety medicine that she needed. So that's an example of the behavioral health walk-in clinic. So these squares are paramount into connecting veterans to services. All different ways, 9 ways right here that you can link veterans to services for issues that were related to their trauma, their PTSD, or their substance abuse. Okay, we're going to get a little bit specific, and I'm running out of time here. So we're going to go quickly through these. Most VA healthcare systems have CTADs, which are Centers for Treatments of Addictive Disorders. They have a residential program and an outpatient program. This is the address for the one in Pittsburgh and where it's located. Okay, the Center for Treatment of Addictive Disorders has a core program. So wherever you're involved in whatever VA system, it's a core program that involves a 14 to 21 day intensive intervention in which each veteran is assigned a counselor that will assist them with their treatment goals as well as provide individual therapy. Social workers in this program are responsible for being part of the interdisciplinary team, the psychologist, the psychiatrist who help case management and manage their evaluations. Our CTAD in Pittsburgh has wonderful groups. So that's the second little part up here. The green groups, they have walk-in, drop-in groups where a veteran can just show up and participate in this group. And they also have closed groups, so they have to be assigned to the groups. Our OSTC, which is our opioid substitution therapy clinic. It provides methadone and maintenance therapy to assist those with opioid dependence. So we do have that in Pittsburgh. But for those of you who don't know, our healthcare clinic is probably about a 45-minute drive with no traffic and maybe about an hour and a half drive with traffic to Pittsburgh. The guys or the women that come here for treatment oftentimes don't want to go to Pittsburgh for this service because it's really a burden to them. So we end up doing a lot of referrals around here for those kinds of things. The LCSW role with the CTAD is twofold. Like ours at the clinic, they do counseling and psychotherapy as well as case management services for people who have drug and alcohol issues. A Veterans Justice Outreach is really involved with the CTAD, so I explained that to you, but that's also a part of it. And I just wanted to give you a little brief blurb about court-ordered letters. The VA is really strong on getting help with the veterans that they need, but we have been discouraged from writing any court-ordered letters for veterans here in the VA Pittsburgh Health System. We are interested in helping people who, people who are really want to engage in treatment. We're not conducting forensic evaluations for them, and we don't offer treatment recommendations to fulfill their legal requirements. So our recommendations will be based on the veteran's goals on how to get better and to seek them treatment. So that's what the Center for Treatment for Addictive Disorders really helps with. I'm so sorry.
Carla,
the goals of,
I'm
yes.
sorry, Carla. There's a question. Do they do any sort of medical assisted treatment in Westmoreland for veterans? I personally have had veterans frustrated when trying to get drug and alcohol help or MAT because they had to go all the way to Pittsburgh. But I mean, you were I think you kind of answered that, but maybe if you could go in a little more.
Well, I mean, I think you can answer that better than me. Look, Sarah, look at this. On our sheets that we hand out people, we give them the Westmoreland County Drug and Alcohol number, and they've had great success with hooking up our veterans. So do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, to clarify her question, she means can they come, to clarify, I think what she means is can they come to the outpatient center in Greensburg where you work and get MAT?
No, they cannot.
They would have to go to an outpatient provider, and you refer them out to SPHS, Axiom, outpatient providers in the community.
Yes, and we do that. And it's been very successful. Even our veterans with no insurances have been able to be hooked up.
I think you got it, Sarah, because I think that's where I was. Yeah, cool. Okay, good job, Caitlin. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. So just in the risk of time here, we're going to not go through the goals of SUD treatment because you guys both know that. Options, we're not going to go through that. That's just the Department of Defense options, which is talk therapy, referrals. You guys know that. Excuse me. I do want to share this with you, which you're going to be getting in your packet. One of the psychologists shared this with me. It's a script for a meditation. Oh, I am so sorry. And it helps you to help some of the people who are suffering from drug and alcohol related problems. And it's called the SOBER. Stop, observe, breathe, expand. I'm going to send that with you in your packet, so you'll have that. High risk situations, I mean, those are all things that most of us know. And I'm not going to spend time going over those. Other family members who are using, other feelings that we're processing at the time, inability to follow through with treatment. Those are some high risk situations. Okay, community care for drug and alcohol treatment. This is where I want to explain that we do a lot of referral to the Drug and Alcohol Westmoreland County to help us. They have a lot of funding to help our veterans, and we will refer people to there. If someone wants a non-VA service because they think it's more non-threatening for us, use the Community Care or the Mission Act, and we can help you, hook you up that way. And I just have to say, Westmoreland County has been really supportive to us to help us get drug and alcohol treatment for our veterans that they need. So we wanted to mention that. Again, I'm not going to go over through this, but for the drug and alcohol, the same thing for eligibility. All these squares are the same that I reported on before, because these are all ways that you can get drug and alcohol treatments for your veterans. The substance abuse disorders. We also have smoking cessation classes and tobacco counseling, and all that through the VA. And these are any one of the ways that you can connect your substance use disorder veterans up with these things. Okay, trauma, the PTSD, buzzwords. We've heard sanctuary model, trauma-focused care. A lot of times they focus on veterans. The veterans have PTSD. I also want to share with you a very important book, if you guys aren't familiar with it. It's called Peace at Last. It's by Deborah Grassman, Grassman. Again, the book is Peace at Last, written by Deborah Grassman. This is taking me back to my hospice days. This is a book written by a VA nurse who saw veterans at the end of their life. She worked for 25 years in a hospice setting at a VA hospital. She gathered stories about veterans and helps all of us be able to relate to veterans going through any trauma or services. There's a lot of end of life in here, but there's also a lot of takeaways that you guys who work with veterans can use. This is where the other column, the soul injury, comes into play. When I worked with hospice, we did a lot of work with the soul injury of our veterans who were in hospice and the bereavement counseling that I did. I'm going to read one of the excerpts to you. I was intent on rescuing the world from suffering, not realizing my idealistic mission was like saving a fish from drowning. It would take years of listening to patients before I realized they weren't drowning, and what they really needed was for me to learn how to swim. The problem was, I thought I already knew how to swim. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. We think we know what we need to know, but there are certain things in relationships to veterans that we need to familiarize ourselves. And that book will really help you. She does a lot of training for the National Hospice and Palliative Care organizations that you can download and have access to on NHPCO's website. So that's another good resource for you. She helps the veterans deal with a lifetime of traumas that was never addressed in their lives. So that can help all of us. I also want to mention that the traumas that the veterans have are just not related to their military experiences. It can be related to childhood sexual abuse, and join the military to escape that, experiencing deaths of family members or friends of a young age, serious accidents such as car wrecks or things that they were involved in as teenagers, any natural disasters such as fire, tornadoes, floods, and even the 9/11 terrorist attacks or other terrorist attacks are things that we address in working with the veterans. And sometimes we need to do that in a special way based on their experiences. So this slide gives you a little bit about it. We have a combat stress recovery clinic at our hospital in Pittsburgh. It's in the University Drive clinic. Have specific groups to combat areas and coping skills. And they also have an intensive outpatient program. That's what IOP means. The modality used a lot are long exposure and cognitive processing therapy. I know Olivia and I, the other therapist here, when we started working at this clinic, we are certified in cognitive processing therapy. The VA put us through a really rigorous program to train us in the cognitive processing therapy. So we do use that here at this clinic. This is another really good thing that I'm sending you guys in your packet. This app. These are a list of really good apps to help with PTSD. And there's going to be a copy of it that I photocopied in your packet that you are going to get. A PTSD coach is one of them, and it helps you monitor systems. One that I use a lot is for coping skills, and you guys can apply this to depression, anxiety, and everything, is the virtual hope box. I even have it downloaded on my own personal phone, but the virtual hope toolbox is really good with coping skills, and I find it most helpful use with PTSD. Now, the PTSD coach online is a service that you can connect to from the National Service Center for PTSD. Its experienced coaches take you through tools for anyone who needs help with upsetting feelings, trauma, survivors, or family members. There is handouts or worksheets or frequently asked questions on there. So the PTSD Coach Online is really good. There's another thing for PTSD that I wanted to go over. If you go to the national hotline for PTSD, you'll find a handout there or information on where I can find information and support. And that again is the PTSD National Center. So the National Center for PTSD. There's a booklet you can download for PTSD, and there is About Face is a special program that we have for veterans that you can download videos for it, and it tells you about what PTSD is, am I ready for help, what is treatment like for PTSD, and they're all videos you can watch online. It's been really helpful to my veterans to do that. So go to the National Center for PTSD and look up those things. I'll also send that to you in your packet, so you guys will have that. Military sexual trauma. Again, this slide is for the Pittsburgh system. Every system has a military sexual trauma specialist. Dr. Korshinsky is for the Pittsburgh system, and here is her telephone number. So anybody involved in the Pittsburgh system. And honestly, people who have military sexual trauma can qualify for free mental health services. So this is a good number to have to check into that. And Dr. Korshinsky is wonderful. Okay, this is the same slide as before, because just like eligibility and subs, in order for trauma, these 9 sides can apply. Okay, a couple quick things. We're going to end this shortly because I know I like to stay on time and I'm already over. But VA doesn't have catchment areas. So if someone is in the VA Pittsburgh system and comes to this clinic for medical care and they want to go to the Pittsburgh for their mental health care, they can. If they go have a summer home in Florida, we can do a travel contract so they can get their services in Florida. So catchment areas aren't as strict as other insurance companies or people have for healthcare. So I want to throw that out there. We have a psychiatrist, nurse practitioners, and psychologists who meet with our veterans here every day in our clinic on telehealth. So if someone doesn't relate to maybe a social worker and they want a psychologist, they can do that on the site. Or if they need med management, we can hook them up with a psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner a lot easier that way. VVC is VA Video Connect. People can use their phones, and I can do counseling at lunchtime in their car with them on the phone with the new system that the VA has. And with the COVID-19, this has worked out really well. So we have VVCs that anybody within the VA system can offer. You can show up to an emergency room and say you need help. The other thing is that there's a pocket card for any veterans who are enrolled in healthcare. I'm going to send this to you if you're not aware of it. If any veteran who's enrolled in healthcare presents to another healthcare system, they should show this pocket card to them. So I'm going to mail that in the packet to you guys so you have that as well. Finally, this is my last slide, and then I'm going to end with a little story. These are our partnerships, people who really help us. Veteran centers, veteran service officers. The Union Mission is a men's shelter. The Blackburn Center in our area helps for domestic violence. Welcome Home Shelter is a women's and children's shelter. The Office on Aging with their Protective Services program. Westmoreland County has one of the only under 60 programs for protective services. So if you didn't know that, I wanted to throw that out there. Westmoreland County does have under 60 services for protective services. And the Veterans Leadership Program was really helpful for homelessness and veterans who were caught up in those kinds of things. Okay, So I want to end with this story. Thanks all of you for being patient and listening with me. But this is an email that I got last week from a very close friend of mine. She shared this email with me. And I know she wouldn't mind if I shared it with you because I'm always telling her she should be writing a book. 11 years ago yesterday, my husband John and I went to the Giant Eagle and used up the remaining 3 coupons that we had for free meatball subs because they were going to expire. We took these subs to the assisted living unit at Concordia where my mother was living. We got dinner, went to a lounge, and all 4 of us were together. We talked about our days. My dad was settling into his new apartment. My mom went to exercise class and a program about the nationality rooms at the University of Pittsburgh, and then we played a game. My dad went back to his apartment. John, my husband, went to Dollar General, and I went to help my mother get ready for bed. She was having trouble with COPD and heart failure. She went into respiratory failure, and she's been the worst that she's been. My mother begged me not to send me to the hospital. However, the ambulance was called, and she was sent for her 6th trip to the hospital since December. We got home at 4 a.m., my husband and I, after deciding not to have my mother intubated, which is put on a ventilator. We had an 8 a.m. appointment with my breast surgeon that day. 11 years ago, that appointment was 2 hours long. That is where I learned that the biopsy showed I had an aggressive breast cancer. Let the testing and appointments begin. Shortly after that, I got a call that my mother was not improving. So at 1:23 on Saturday, April 25th, my husband and I watched my mom cross her arms over her chest, and the angels carried her home to Jesus. I was sure that I was going to be with her in heaven that year. But a funny thing happened during my own mental trip to the cemetery. I didn't die, so my mom is still waiting for me to join her 11 years later. I miss my mom's positive spirit, but I know that I would have had to help her more than she could have helped me over the past years. I look back at the time, and I'm always careful when I say, can this get any worse? Because guess what? On that day, my friend Naomi learned that yes, it could get worse. But it also can get better. And the journey you think you're going to go on isn't necessarily the journey you will get. However, just because the trip is different doesn't mean it's bad. So live like my mom, live her life. She lived her life up until the last moment that she was conscious, ordering dinner that she never got to eat, and going to activity programs 24 hours before she died. So it's a crazy world out there. And despite these current crazy days, I will always try to emulate my mother's positive spirit, her generosity, her volunteerism, and her willingness to get others involved. So keep smiling. That's how my mom ended every note, every card, every talk. And even though my tears come freely, I will always keep smiling. For my friends, for yourselves, for your families, and for your friends, and for your spirits, may all of you please keep smiling as you go out in the world and help others who are struggling with their substance abuse and their traumas. So thanks so much for allowing me to speak with you today. I'm sorry it was a little bit over time, but I'd be willing to stay to answer any questions that anybody has. So thanks.
Thank you, Carla. Oh, you got me a little teary-eyed. That was great. The wealth of information that you shared with us was great. So I don't know if there's any questions, guys. Get them in there. Oh.
What is Soldier On?
Okay, Soldier On is a program that gets special grant money. It's a veterans outreach, and they help with rent assistance, security deposit, homelessness, healthcare, and anyone who's struggling. There's an 800 number. I'll give that to you. 1-866-406-8449. Again, Soldier On is 1-866-406-8449. And they help us a lot when we have issues for people who are coming in with homelessness or financial struggles. And it could be related to their substance abuse disorder or their trauma that they're trying to process. So that's what Soldier On is.
And I'm so glad, Carla, that you're going to share all the brochures and the information in the packet. And just so you all know, I will be sending any information that Carla said that she would share along with when I send your certificates out. And I'll send that as an attachment. And then also don't forget to there is a survey, just like a feedback for us that we will look at too. So if y'all could fill that out, that'd be great too. And we're still taking questions if you have any. Everybody's just, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks everybody for listening. And I'm hopefully the packet of information that I send you will be helpful to all of you and we can get the veterans the service they need. So thanks.
Oh, thank you. Everybody's thanking you. And we appreciate your time, Carla. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.